Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I want to talk to you guys about something really personal, something that we are all guilty about. I realized it a couple of years ago, but I still feel that I haven't done enough. It is a story about a non-Muslim that led me to the right path. Thank you so much for giving so much love and support to the first video of Think Muslim. If you haven't checked it out, then I'll put it up on the cards over here. That's the I button that you can see, and also add a link in the description below. Couple of years ago, I was working for a company that had its offices across the globe. After a long work trip to India, I went back to the head office and was in for a big surprise. I would usually go for my salah in the basement of the office building. There were few other staff members that would accompany me sometimes. But that day things changed for me. It was my first day, so I decided to go a little early for my Asr Salah. After the Jama'ah got over, I turned to surprisingly see a fellow non-Muslim colleague hesitantly completing his Asr Salah. Initially, I thought the other guys are mocking him. I even confronted them and they told me that this individual wanted to learn more about Islam and wanted to revert to Islam. And I was extremely happy for that guy. Later that day, he came into my cabin to discuss some work with my colleague. After their discussion, he turned towards me and requested me to spend 30 minutes with him after Maghrib Salah so that he could understand what he is saying in his Salah. I was so embarrassed that I shamefully gave an excuse and avoided it. I kept avoiding it for a couple of more days until he went on to somebody with that same request. But I realized that the embarrassment that I was feeling was actually the guilt of not learning my deen enough. Of course, I had this excuse up front that Arabic is not my native language. I don't speak Arabic. How will I understand it? But that's not an excuse anymore. I've spent more than 20 years of my life learning different languages in my school, in my college, in my masters. And I was a person that was so sincere and committed to my education and my work that I would not sit in a meeting without being extremely prepared for it. I would prepare for the meeting one day before. I wouldn't sleep the entire night so that I can deliver on the next day. But this is a meeting that I have 5 times a day and I fell short. I fell short to the most important meeting that I hold with my Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The point of this story is that the concern that person had on his face for not understanding what he's saying in his salah spoke volumes to me. It just made me go back to all these books that I learned to achieve my worldly goals. It just put me into so much guilt that every salah that I read after that day reminded me of my lack of devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of what we do today is dictated by our family, our friends, and the society. A lot of us end up choosing educational paths and career paths based on this pressure. But we don't feel that same pressure when it comes up for salah. No, there is nobody that is checking up on us if our salah is correct or no. We need such people in our lives, and we should also be such people in somebody else's life. It is important to take our salah seriously. And are we not done with that excuse that Arabic is not our native language, we don't speak Arabic, how are we going to understand it thoroughly? Of course, but we've spent so many years of our lives, reading tons of books in our schools, in our colleges, in our careers, but we have always kept it on high priority. Why haven't we done the same? Why have we all fallen so short that we have lost the connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Don't get me wrong with this. This is not to take away any value from your education or your career. This is to identify that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His book, the Quran, is more valued than anything in this world. You have to realize that it's not just any language. It is the language that is chosen by our Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the language that our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to speak in. It is the language that unites our ummah as one. So why do I say that it unites our ummah as one? If you think about it, when you hear the azan, we all know that it's time for salah. When we all stand together, we start with Allahu Akbar. Then we go on with our sana, with Surah Fatiha, and it's all the same, connecting us to one. There is no person reading his salah in some other language. We all say it in Arabic. It's the language of our ummah. I was ashamed. The reality had kicked in for me. I had to fix it. We all need to. We need that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a connection with our Lord, and it is the most important for us, and it should be always. Because it's not just about the guilt and the shamefulness that was pulling me down. It was that I spent so many years without having that devotion towards my Lord and towards my deen. And that's what we all lack today. We see that we are just getting deviated with the world, but it is because we are lacking in our salah, we are lacking in our zikr, we are lacking in adopting the sunnahs of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But how should we do this? There has to be some reasonable way to go about it. Let's be honest. It's not that you're going to go tomorrow and understand the whole of Quran and it's an easy fix. So these are the steps that help me. Inshallah, it helps you as well. The very first step is to start with astaghfar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is extremely merciful to the person who comes back, sincerely repents, and proves his intent with action. The next thing to do is to identify each and every aspect of your salah. Once you figure that out, it's easier to connect the meaning of the verses that you're reciting in your prayers. Be it when you're standing in your qiraat, when you're in your ruku, or in your sajda. Later on, you can keep on adding more surahs, preferably from the 30th juz, because these are the shorter surahs, easier to memorize and easier to understand. Even better if you know the backstory of how and when the surahs were revealed. When you start doing this, you'll get the concentration in your prayers, and it will just put that focus towards your Lord rather than the distractions that we have today. You can add additional surahs and even learn verses of the bigger surahs, that is Surah Baqarah, Surah Al Imran, and you can add a verse a day, and it can be a regular habit, inshallah. I plan to do the same with you guys and start to think Muslim. If this video was of some value to you, then give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family, and to support me on this journey of Think Muslim, subscribe to the channel. For more shorter Islamic motivational videos, follow Think Muslim on Facebook and Instagram. I'll see you in the next one. Jazakallahu khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. अस्सलामु अलैकुम वरहमतुल्लाहि वबरकातुहू। मेरे भाइयों, बुजुर्गों और दोस्तों, can't do this. I am no mufti, no sheikh to lecture you on this. I'm just a young Muslim with maybe not the same but similar experiences in life. Over the past 3 years, I saw myself transform into somebody that is much more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the world. This is that special something that is going to connect you with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 3, revive your relations. You can get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you broke in ties of kinship in this world. All the previous steps that you took narrows down to this point. You showed intent, you purified your intent by giving sadaqah, you revived your relations,